episode 694 of the Extreme Health Radio podcast. Can you believe it's been 694? I just can't believe it. 700 episodes coming up. We've been doing this show, for those that are new, since 2012. And so Dr. Cass Ingram is going to be on the show today. And what we were talking about before we started recording was, you know what, we're just getting tired of all this censorship, you know? It's just crazy. We have to speak in code. We can't say what we want to say. So you know what? I said, screw it. We're going to not put this on YouTube. We're going to do this. We're probably going to put it on BitChute or somewhere else. So if you're subscribed on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify, you can listen to it on there, the audio version. But yeah, I just said, you know what? I'm so tired of all this censorship. I'm so tired of not being able to say what I really want to say. I'm tired of not being able to speak my mind, speaking in code all the time. It's just crazy what's going on out there. So, you know what? I just figured, let's not play their game anymore. If they don't want us on their channels, we'll go somewhere else, right? We'll get the word out, and people will still be able to hear the message. And so, as a consumer, go over to BitChute or go over to Brighteon or go over to some of these alternative platforms, band.video, and start consuming content over there. And that way, if we all just say no, we'll make some headway here with the censorship thing. So, anyway, with that little rant out of the way, I hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are in the world. Like I said, this is episode 694. So what I'm going to do is put the links to everything we talk about at extremehealthradio.com/694. That way, if you're running or jogging or driving around and you want to get access to the ebook that Dr. Cass Ingram talks about or anything, just remember the 694. So we got a lot of cool shows. Every Friday we do new shows, and on Sunday evening we're a little behind. We had some tech issues, so we're a little behind, but generally every Sunday night is when our new audio versions come out. And then the other 6 days of the week, you get our archived best of episodes on audio. So if you're subscribed on iTunes, on Stitcher, these types of places, make sure to subscribe so you get 7 shows a week and the new ones on Sunday evening. Next week, who do we have? We have Dr. Michelle Lamassa Schrader. We're going to talk about recall healing and the emotional, spiritual trauma and its relationship to the nervous system and to our health challenges. So that's going to be a great one. Jason Prahl is coming up. We're going to talk. He's the guy behind the Human Longevity Project, so we'll talk to him. That's going to be a great show. He's already been on once. And then we're going to talk about light, blue blocking glasses, and how to mitigate light from Dane Barkley. That's going to be coming up soon, as well as an EMF show with Nicholas Pennell and Brian Hoyer. So that's going to be fun. We've got to mitigate that EMF. So lots of cool shows coming up. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes we have coming up. And we appreciate all of your help so much and your support over the years. It means a lot to us. So really, really great. So this is Dr. Cass Ingram. I think this is his second or third time on the show. And just one of the most amazing guys ever in the alternative and natural health space. He's a nutritional physician, motivational speaker. He's a wild man. And I love how candid he is about everything. It's so awesome. And I've written over 25 books on natural healing. Has been at this with his degree in 1979 from the University of Northern Iowa as a DO, and just been doing talks, over 5,000 radio shows he's been on, all kinds of cool stuff. And he's just a great, great guy, and I like featuring his work. So let me turn his microphone up here. All right, Doc, can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. You know, thank God for, just kind of staying strong and well. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Let me ask you, don't you find it terminally boring that you want to cajole and sort of alter your stance or your words? I am so bored with that as far as I'm concerned, I don't have time. If you own your own channel and you want to decide who's on it, you have the right to do that. Right. But I own my own voice. You own your own voice and your own mental thoughts. So you're not going to compromise us. Mm-hmm. We're going to make our assessments and go from there to make use of those assessments.
I know, because for those that don't know, before we started recording, we were talking about what subject matters we want to talk about, and I have on the thumbnail for the show today the COVID injection, and these the censorship is so crazy where you have these automated bots that scan the text and scan the words that you say of these podcasts. And if they, if they detect Bill Gates, if they detect, injections, vaccines, COVID-19, all these types of things, they flag your video and get taken down. And I'm so tired of it, Doc. Like, I think for guys like you and for people like us, like for the longest time, there's been a lot of people with tons and tons of subscribers and big platforms, but now everyone has to go to different alternative platforms. So I think now more than ever for people like you, saying yes to every interview and being on radio shows as much as possible, because we're all sort of rebuilding our platforms now,
It seems that way. One of the big issues is you make a scientific and erudite assessment of whatever it might be, whether it be a drug, an investigational medication, a vaccine that might be being launched, and you assess what are the consequences. Herbal medicines, do they work? Is there any evidence? What about the vitamins? Let's be realistic about what they're doing. GMOs, what are the risks there? This is what all we want to do is just assess this. We can't make up somebody's mind for them, but we can give them a rational point of view, and then they can take that information and run with it. Mm-hmm. Now, somebody's out there trying to stop that. Well, it so happens. I don't know, and it's also, they're financially vested in suppression. This is the sick part. Mm-hmm. See, this is funny. The communist system was being supported by the U.S. corporations. They were making money on nuclear and on the on the armaments. It wasn't just the communist system. There was Wall Street was involved and secretly involved in promoting that. Mm-hmm. And so now you have people saying, we're philanthropists and we want you. But you find out that the philanthropists or the talking heads have big vested interests in what they're... Nobody goes to Washington, D.C. to sit there and pontificate. They're all ambitious. Mm-hmm. They want to get something out of it, out of that position. So it so happens, take your vaccine. Well, the same people are in it. They've got the patent. Was it Gates, I guess, whoever he is? He said, I'm making 20 times the money that I normally make with these vaccines.
Yep.
Don't neglect, he is a shrewd poker-playing businessman. Mm-hmm. This is money to him, money and power. There's no altruism.
No, not at all. Someone was saying just the other day that their conjecture, and I agree with them, the single most dangerous man on the planet right now is Bill Gates. I agree with that.
Well, he is, because he's the artificial face of the Kabbalists that are involved in this depopulation program. But you see, he's just a front man for the Rockefeller clique, the Rothschilds, and people that are in the $1 trillion realm. He's the $1 billion realm. Mm-hmm. So they use him to catch the flack. Mm. But there's a number of people, not that many number-wise, who are into this thing about that you got to kill people, and Africa has to go back to, it was like when Stanley was there in 1890, and and you've got to cut the population and the carbon print, all kinds of. You get that much money and power. I guess you don't have anything else to do. Why don't you just go and all of you go get the pinochle or the poker cards and start playing? Yeah. Just leave us alone. We're minding our own business. And now all of a sudden, you're shooting half the population with some experimental drug. You don't even know what it can do or can't do. And apparently the objective is to reduce the population through vaccination.
Hey, Doc, are you familiar with the Deagle Corporation?
No, I know. I bet he promotes it. And what is it?
Well, I heard about it only just a couple of days ago because I listen to so many different radio shows, everything on double speed, so I get through a lot of content. And this guest was talking about the Deagle Corporation. What he said was Apparently, they get their sort of information, or the CIA, the WHO, the CDC, the NIH, all of these alphabet organizations report their content to them. And the only thing I got from this person's comments was that the Deagle Corporation gets their information from these alphabet agencies, and then they put out these predictions. And in 2015, they said that the world population, or the population of the U.S., was 328 million. And their 10-year projection for 2025 was 61 million. And then someone had questioned them about it, and they stood by their prediction. So I don't know if it's true or how accurate that is, but I just heard about this the other day. It's crazy.
It's possible. No, Mikovits is a pretty sharp lady, and she's got some experience in this with retroviruses and other pathogens, and she predicts 50 million dead. I can't do it. I don't know how many are going to die. I know that when I wrote the book, The COVID-19 Remedy, The Real Truth Revealed, what we found was evidence that about 250,000 Americans have already become deceased from the various inoculations. Now, that's based on the VAERS reporting system and extrapolating that by a multiple. Now, is it possible that we'll see a culling of 50 million, as Dr. Mikovits has bravely stated, or the Deagle corporations? I don't think we know. The human body is fairly resilient. Tens of millions of people have taken this inoculation. The possibility is there that all of a sudden they all start dropping dead in 2 and 3 and 4 months from the date. I just don't know enough about it. I suspect we'll lose 5 to 10 million people from the vaccination.
I'm sure you have friends and family that have taken it, right?
Well, not too much, not too close. One naturopath that I'm very fond of, she loves to travel. So I said, well, just don't take the shot. Don't let your patients put you into it. Oh, well, but my patients say they won't come. I says, who cares if they don't come? But that was an excuse. So 2 days ago, she said, I'm going out to take my second shot. I said, don't come anywhere near me for a month after taking that shot.
She's a naturopath? This is the problem.
Yeah, she's a naturopath. This is the problem that we have, is that people feel that their life will be compromised, that the enjoyable existence will never be to normal unless they get a vaccine card. This is the very curious scheme that Gates and whoever have come up with, that we're going to make your life miserable. We'll lock you up, lock you down, unlock you, lock you up. We will mask you, double mask you, triple mask you. We will make you the most miserable creature on the face of the earth until you submit to our inoculation. We'll pontificate that we're going to make you have a passport, and we're going to test you. And some of this is being rolled out. Here's how I look at it. I only have one spinal cord, one set of platelets, one brain, one organ, one heart. I'm not going to take something wittingly, knowingly, that could kill me. So I will rather, like the prophets of old, find a hatchet, a knife, a gallon of water. I'll find a homestead somewhere, and I'll make a log cabin. I'm not going to do it. I don't care if the military comes or not. You'd have to hit me with a stunt gun, knock me out. I wouldn't know, and then inject. So you just have to make up your mind that you're not going to compromise yourself. What they say, you can't fly. Well, then I won't fly. You can't go on a train. I won't go on a train. I don't need you. This, no matter how you look at it, you only live 70, 80, 90 years on average. Then you die, and if you believe a little bit, you might go to eternity. So even if you believe that the earth is 4,000 years, there are people who say that. Let's say you think it's 10,000 years. Let's compromise. 20,000. Let's say it's 20,000. Well, eternity, can you imagine? You live to be 100, you get to live to be 200 times. I'll take just 200 times 100. I'll live to be 4,000 years. Eternity, can you imagine? So this life means very little if you think about it, and you're not going to compromise your ethics, your principles, just for some temporary thrill of like a sports game. Who cares?
Man, I know, it's crazy. People are like really selling this idea of getting back to normal. In order for us to get back to normal, we have to get this injection, and that's the sort of sell, this sort of communist socialist idea that we're doing this for other people and not for us, and to regain our freedoms. Like, did you hear Biden the other day talking about how if we want to be able to celebrate our freedoms on the 4th of July, we should take the shot? It's like,
yeah, he's a what is that, a puppet? They call that puppet?
Yeah.
Whatever you put in front of him, he speaks it.
Yeah.
But you just have to decide whether your spiritual self and your integrity are important. If you don't believe they're important, then you're going to go get the shot to try to somehow... Now, my question is, you take the shot because you want to go back to normal and you don't want to hurt anybody, whatever. You don't want to hurt yourself. Let's say that 40%, let's just say 50% of Americans don't take the shot. What are you going to do with those? You're going to kill them? Because you can't go back to your normal unless you shoot everybody, according to your thinking. Or you shoot 80%, according to Fauci's thinking. So you can't go to normal by you taking the shot if 50% aren't going to take the shot. Forget it.
And I think it's a really high percentage of people that are saying no. Even a lot of nurses and people are saying no.
Well, because one thing is there's internet, but they're seeing their colleagues getting sick with terminal diseases, some of them dropping dead. Nurse Tiffany Dover, one of the early recipients in December, collapsed. I think she died 2-3 days later. We don't hear from her. Hank Aaron's dead. Marvin Hagler, he's a Copwood son of a gun. Some pretty famous people are dead or in a doornail. So and then you're hearing some of the satellite news saying, we got a report, and one of them said that the daughter was pushing the TV channel, to tell the story about how her mother is dead. A really prominent dental hygienist or something, or plastic surgeon hygienist, deader, within 4 days. The doctor said her organs have been eaten and liquefied, ripped to shreds, and there's nothing we can do to save her. See, this is two things. If you have a heart attack, let's say you're just driving or walking along the road, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing some athletic activity. It shouldn't happen then, but somehow, or you're eating too many donuts, you drop dead from a heart attack. But if the ER or the emergency crew can get there with the cardioversion and the drug concoctions soon enough, they could bring you back. Let's say you've been dead for 2 minutes. They might be able to bring you back. You could then live 20, 30 more years.
Right.
With the mRNA, and I'll explain that. With the COVID vaccines, they kill you. If they're going to kill you, you don't have a chance. You can't be resuscitated. No matter how many EMT people come and descend on you, you're done. Not a chance. How could anything be that poisonous?
I don't understand, Doc. So how, if you get the vaccine and let's say you have a heart attack, you can't be resuscitated? Is that the idea?
You're done. You're done. It must be what Tenpenny was saying. It's the perfect killing machine. If you have a heart attack or some sort of sudden death, because people come back from sudden death every day.
Right.
You cannot revive a COVID-19 vaccine patient.
Really?
1 or 2 may have gone brain dead, but then they pulled the plug and they died anyway.
I've never heard of that. So does that stand for all, I think, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson?
All of them, especially Moderna and the Pfizer.
Is that because they're the mRNA?
Yeah. See, what happens is...
Wow.
Moderna said, we're really bragging to you. We, in 2 days on a computer program, figured out the formula for this vaccine.
Right.
And he said we just went with it. What they've done is they've made synthetic transgenic RNA, because you can't stabilize RNA anyway. It's too volatile, whatever. But so you can synthesize those nucleotides. once you do that, you apparently grow it in a fermentation through transgenic bacteria. But let's just say the bacteria code to make this.
Uh-huh.
And you inject the mRNA synthetic into the blood. Mm-hmm. That mRNA, you have to have constant communication of your DNA and your RNA to survive in your heart, your brain. It's got to be every just constant. Mm-hmm. You dissect it off. You interrupt it with the synthetic. The body doesn't know what to do, and in some cases people die, and they die, and nothing can be done. Some of them survive. I don't know how they do it. They have the resiliency, at least for now, not to die. Others stroke out. Others develop a paralysis. Others develop the shakes. You saw that with Christy Simmons and others, Skelton people. But that's the problem, is the synthetic DNA. Also, you have the issue of the toxic anaphylactic stress on the body, which can cause sudden death, unrecoverable as well. That's what the regular vaccines do. That's what the human fetal tissue, the dog canine kidney tissue, the monkey vero cells, the chimpanzee so-called shell virus, the various proteins that the body would look at as a categorical poison, and we don't know what the cytokine gene's response is, but the body can't handle it. They drop dead.
So do we know anything about, because we keep hearing about this, mRNA and DNA, obviously. The mRNA, it's my understanding it's the messenger ribonucleic acid, and it's essentially, we had Sophia Smallstorm on this show a while back, and she was talking about it. Essentially it's a software program, but you just mentioned a second ago that it's the RNA that sort of has a signaling effect to the DNA in order for proper sort of phenotypic and genotypic expression, right? So what is ribonucleic acid? What is that? Like, can you explain?
Well, you've got your chromosomes, your genes, right? And there's the DNA. We all know about that. So the DNA codes for this messenger, this RNA ribonucleic acid. It's a pretty sophisticated. We only know about 1% of how this happens. Can you imagine how?
Wow.
Right. They just went with it. So if you only know 1%, you're 99% in the air. You just make this up, go along to make a buck. So the RNA then goes to the outside of the nucleus, and it codes for a protein. That's what it's supposed to do. Well, this can't do that because it's synthetic, so the body doesn't know what to do. It might code for some of the spike protein. It's obviously people are getting COVID, so the body's going to try to do something with it. But the big problem is that the RNA interrupts, the fake RNA interrupts the DNA, and that's why people are having irreversible fatality.
So what do you mean it interrupts the DNA from replication, or what?
Yeah, from being able to communicate. It can't communicate to the cells anymore. You block that. So that's why the figure of perhaps half of America being culled, it may not be that unreasonable. Certainly 2 to 5, 10 million people are going to die from continuing the inoculation because...
It's my understanding, too, that what's happening is that it's shutting off your body's ability to recognize certain pathogens. And if you look at what they're saying, like a coronavirus or something is a standard cold or flu, and when these things come out again in the fall and flu season, all the people that get the vaccine are basically not going to be able to deal with that. And what people don't realize, too, is that there's 30 to 50,000 people a year that die from the flu. Just the flu, 30 to 50,000 people a year die from just the flu. So I can't imagine. Maybe what you're saying is right. Maybe this fall and winter season coming up is going to be a bad one.
Well, the problem you have is that this, you cannot inject synthetic man-made nucleic acids into this highly sophisticated system of DNA RNA communication, and so you develop diseases that have been unseen, like the choreiform shake syndromes that some of the nurses and the practitioners developed, where they couldn't stop shaking during the day.
Oh, I saw that.
And that's a novel disease due to the COVID vaccine. Some of the skin diseases, they call them Stevens-Johnson syndrome. It's a variant of Stevens-Johnson's that's specific to the COVID-19 vaccines. So you will see in the next 6 months the pharmaceutical companies taking advantage of these new and novel diseases, and the doctors and hospitals. They'll be due to the vaccine. They will be due to the destruction of the RNA-DNA communication. Now, then you have also the propylene glycol. You have, which is an emulsifier. That's certainly toxic enough. You have the nanotech nanobots that they put in there. So there are many reasons that could account for why this dissection is occurring. But the biggest danger is in the RNA material.
That's crazy. Do you remember that story a couple years ago? It seems like as I keep getting older, a couple years ago, it becomes 10 years ago. But there was a story of a guy a couple years ago where he sort of attacked some innocent person and ended up like trying to chew his face off. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, I learned just recently that person was part of a vaccine trial that was similar to what's going on with this mRNA thing. And I don't know if that's true, but I mean that's crazy, right?
Well, we should look at that because it's pretty unusual circumstance, and they could have given him some transgenic GMO agent. My concern with the public isn't the propylene glycol, because we can detox that to some degree. It's not that even the nanotechnology is bad at this. I'm really concerned about the chimpanzee shell viruses and the synthetic mRNA that we develop irreversible pathology that even as good as I am, I have a hard time helping people. But that brings us to a case history, which is my 50-nurse trial. I want to ask you about that in a second, but I want to find out why those two are your biggest concern. What did you say, the chimpanzee? Well, the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson takes a chimpanzee adenovirus, which is a potentially fatal virus for humans, and they claim, all we get is the press releases, that they've made that adenovirus sterile, and they use it as a shell to incorporate the spike protein inductions. They're using so-called DNA, but this could be synthetic DNA because certainly we've seen tremendous fatalities in the short time that Johnson & Johnson has been out, and AstraZeneca is a hopeless case. So regardless, let's say that we're dealing with these proteins from chimps plus the synthetic DNA. Whether Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, or Moderna, they're all a little different, but it doesn't really matter. They're all blocking your DNA from communicating to your heart, to your brain, to your spinal cord, to your brainstem. If you block that, you couldn't think of a better technique to kill people, and do it so that you hope that there's no consequences to your corporation or to yourself because it's a medically necessary procedure for intervention of the pandemic. You would have almost had to have invented this idea in secret boardrooms. It couldn't go this well. As you saw what happened to the elderly who just dropped dead after the shot. 100-fold more aggressive than the flu shot. They were dropping dead.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then the mRNA we talked about, that's where you have developed what you think to be a computer software program for our DNA. You arrogant, who knows what you are. And then you somehow get the bacteria in bats to produce large quantities of this material. You don't know what you've got. You don't know what GMOs are in there. You don't know what what side agents are there. The human fetal tissue material, you admit that's in there. The dog canine kidney stuff, the vero monkey cell stuff, the chimp. You've got these proteins. The body's going to go crazy. Now, we know that the cytokine shock is what leads to some of the deaths.
Mm-hmm.
The body goes into shock and you die. You're done. The shock reaction is such that you can't be recovered. You can't be resuscitated. You want to take that chance. If for some reason you want to kill yourself all of a sudden because you're too miserable, you can jump off a bridge. At least we know what you were doing. Now, here, if you then interrupt that cytokine storm, like we did with the nurses, you might be able to do something. But many of you said it's irreversible, but we've got some proof that perhaps God's nature is better than most people know. So, a positive thing.
Man, we have so much to talk about. Hey, Doc, you know what? Let's take a little break right now, and I want to come back and talk about this Pfizer vaccine. And I want to ask you, too, why it's, single dose. I'm curious, that's apparently the only single dose one. And then also there's been some issues with tainting of the Pfizer vaccine as well. But
Johnson & Johnson.
I'm sorry, Johnson & Johnson. Yeah. So we'll cover that along with your book, too, that you have. It's called COVID-19 Remedy. So we're going to discuss all of this good stuff. We're going to take a little break right now, and I hope you guys are enjoying the show. I'll put links to Dr. Cass Ingram's books and all kinds of cool stuff over at extremehealthradio.com/694. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this product that I like and use every single day. It's molecular hydrogen. And talk about repairing DNA. We had Tyler LeBaron on, who's the head of the Molecular Hydrogen Institute, and he talked about exactly that, how hydrogen can help repair the DNA and the mitochondrial DNA as well. So here's a really cool clip of my friend Nathan talking about just that.
Getting healthy sun exposure can do more than any supplement. I do take some supplements. Most of the supplements I take are on the short term. When I fly, I do molecular hydrogen because that's really a good quencher of free radicals, especially a lot of the free radicals made from EMFs. And when you fly, you get exposed to a whole bunch of EMFs. But here's a hack, because molecular hydrogen is not super cheap, but your body also makes molecular hydrogen. And the best way to do that is by getting infrared light on your gut. So that light, it penetrates into your gut, and your bacteria are able to liberate or pull out molecular hydrogen from your food.
Sorry about that. That wasn't the actual one I was thinking of. This one is Brian Hoyer. So he talked about molecular hydrogen as well. Sorry for the dead air there. Had to go to the little boys' room. But check out what Brian Hoyer had to say about this.
And then there's other mitigation strategies that I'm working on for outdoors, and there's different things you can do to mitigate some of the damage. One of the things that Dr. Mercola recommends is molecular hydrogen, and that's actually been shown to basically mitigate 80% of the damage of free radical peroxynitrate, which stimulates those, which is created from the stimulation of those voltage-gated calcium ion channels. And so drinking molecular hydrogen when you're acutely exposed to those frequencies can help.
So what I like about this molecular hydrogen machine from George Wiseman, we've done a couple of shows with him, and what's amazing about hydrogen is that it's the smallest known substance in the universe, and it really helps to repair the DNA, like I mentioned, but it's 400 times smaller than vitamin C and 700 times smaller than CoQ10. So it has ability to permeate not just a blood-brain barrier, but get into your mitochondria. I mean, this is like next level stuff here. And so it gets into the brain. It helps reduce oxidation, which is a huge cause. Some people say it's the only cause of all disease is this oxidation, aka rust. And so Tyler has done over 1,000 studies, or there has been over 1,000 studies done on molecular hydrogen. And what's cool about this machine, the AquaCure from George Wiseman, is that you can breathe the gas, you can bubble the water, so you can get, you can drink the molecular hydrogen water all day long, which is what I do. And then you can even bubble it into your bathtub. You could do spot treatments if you have eye issues. There's a little attachment for your eyes. You can use it all over the body. You can breathe it in with a cannula, which is what I do. I rebound with it. I do stretching with it. It's just a awesome technology. And check this out. So we're going to be doing a live webinar soon. I'm not sure yet, but with George Wiseman, all about this with slides and all this kind of cool stuff. So we'll sort of announce that in the future when that happens. But it's going to be a live webinar with George Wiseman here soon. But if you guys are interested, go to extremehealthradio.com/694, and I'll put the links down below. If you're watching the video version of this, I'll put the links in the description below for this AquaCure machine, which I highly recommend you get. And we also have a discount as well. So you want to make sure to use the coupon code EHR, and I think it's 10 for 10% off. So here's another product too. The one more product I want to tell you about, which is just tremendous, and I love this so much.
I just heard those devices that you had during the break, by the way, and I actually want to add to that because that's really cool stuff. I actually have the Magnetico sleep pad myself. I've got the 20 Gauss. It actually is really important, and what's happening is with the Earth, according to research and some pretty good science, that the poles are actually wandering. Instead of being sort of perfectly aligned and opposite of each other, there's multiple poles on the north and south, and they're actually wandering around. And basically what that does is it decreases magnetism around the Earth, but it does so in an uneven way, in an undistributed way. So it's not exactly uniform around the planet. What's happening is we are getting extra solar energies coming to the Earth. So we're actually seeing like UVC is now increasing on the planet because of our magnetic field. Our magnetic shield is not as protective. So it's really interesting stuff what's happening as we're moving into new parts of the galaxy, and we're getting new energies, and all this stuff is changing. So I actually have a Magnetico sleep pad.
So one of the things I always mention to our Extreme Health Academy members is this idea of modifying your environment to support your health. And a lot of times people focus on food, which is great. But the problem with food is that there's addiction issues and all that kind of stuff. So when you modify your environment, it's much more powerful, in my opinion, to sustain a healthy physiology. And what I like to promote and talk about is like this idea of passivity. So getting devices and tools that you can, make a one-time purchase. And like, for example, you put a Magnetico sleep pad on your bed, you got to go to sleep every night anyway. So why not improve your body's ability through the lymphatic system to wash and bathe and cleanse and detoxify all of that cerebral spinal fluid and cleanse itself correctly, and increasing the electron spin rate through sleeping in a magnetic field, and also improving your ability to resist Wi-Fi and things like that. So this is a really great tool to put on your bed. I think it comes like 2,000 magnets. This thing's like 100 pounds. So it's a significant investment, but we also have a coupon code for this as well, and I just can't recommend this enough. It's called the Magnetico Sleep Pad, and it's available in our store if you guys want to support the show, and also grab a discount at biochargeme.com. But I'll put a link as well in the show notes for this episode, which is extremehealthradio.com/694. All right, so getting back to Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer. It's kind of really freeing for me to be able to say these, the names of these companies and not feel like we're going to get removed from YouTube. It just feels good. So I don't know. I just feel a little bit more like, free and open to be able to speak like this. But
yeah. So we're just analyzing, and when you're talking with Johnson & Johnson, it's like, we got to get this on the market. Pfizer's killing them. Billions of dollars. And it's more of that than it is about saving the human race. So we get a $2 billion slush fund from the U.S. government to our research. They pay for the research in toto, and then we market the product and get paid again. So one of these issues would be, okay, that's fine, but I get sick from it, and then I used to work and make $100,000 a year. I can't make any money. I'm now $250,000 in the hole just in medical expenses. Then I'm going to sue you. Well, you can't sue anybody very easily. So you've taken the liability away through legislation. So that shows you how confident. Then you have people like Biden, Fauci. You have individuals like Borla from Pfizer who won't take the vaccine and who fake it. Gates used a double to fake it.
I saw
They're
that.
not taking a chance of getting fatality. They're afraid to die. They should be. And, I think the bigger picture is we've all taken the Hippocratic Oath in medicine, above all, do no harm. You can't have a company, no matter how good their stock price benefits or Wall Street, you can't participate in that is responsible, like Pfizer, BioNTech, or say 3 million deaths already, and Johnson & Johnson, 120,000 dead, whatever it is. And then you are supporting that. Plus, they're not held accountable for even one death, let alone 20 million, 10 million, 5 million, 100,000, or go strictly by the VAERS reporting system by the government, 3,000 Americans or so dead. Isn't that enough to retract the whole program?
Is it 3,000 now? Last I checked, it was 1,200. Has it gone up? I'm sure.
It's gone up big time.
Wow.
Gone up big time. It's over 2,000. It's closing in on 3 now.
Jeez.
And you got to remember, it's a 2-week delay, all kinds of weird stuff.
You know what's interesting, Doc, is we had a family member tell us that, because we sent them that information, right? And the family member said, well, those deaths aren't, they haven't done autopsies and they don't know that the vaccine was the cause of death. It's like programming.
Well, you can't see, let's use it logically. My aunt was fine. She got the vaccine, and 15 minutes later, she became short of breath. She couldn't drive, so we called 911. They picked her up, and she died in the ambulance. What is that? Did she just that be a coincidence that we followed?
Yeah.
Right. And then you've got to analyze it and say, well, we don't know for sure what caused the death. I mean, don't give me, I wasn't born in a shell somewhere. So you use your common sense. Start analyzing this, and you say, well, why is a healthy fireman or a healthy doctor or a healthy nurse dead within 48 hours of the shot? There's no way a 30-year-old is going to drop dead, and then they drop dead and they can't be resuscitated. They must have had some sort of a exceptional toxic insult.
Right.
And that's the big issue, is that I'm not there. If I was there, like my 50 nurses study, I took my 50 nurses, I put them on a program. They didn't even get a sore arm. They all took the Pfizer BioNTech. Many of them took the second shot against my recommendation, and I was able to give them ideas what they could do to shut down the cytokine storm. I'm not there for the other, say, 200 million Americans to get the shot.
So tell me about this 50 nurse study then. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Well, we have our 50 nurses continuously. For 1 year, we've watched them while they took the oregano. This was the oregano. Oregano is the biggest anti-cytokine you could ever have. Black seed oil is another. So spices, cumin, turmeric, they all modify the cytokine genes. Okay? So that you still have the reaction, you still have the toxicity, but at least you don't die from it, right?
Okay, right.
So these 50 nurses, this was different. They wanted to protect themselves against COVID-19, whatever that is. I don't know what it is. Still. They used the oregano spray with clove bud, and they sprayed the back of their throat routinely every day. These 50 nurses and physical therapists, they used the oregano juice essence, whatever. If you know about this, I don't know.
I do.
And then they use the oil of oregano, which we know about. And I think they also use this oregano shield with a beeswax oregano balm that they were putting up their nose.
Okay.
So they did all that. Sign Urega also that you saw me using. And none of them got COVID-19, which is impossible. Somebody would have gotten sick taking care of all these sick people. If that's their job, is to go home with the COVID-diagnosed people and care for them in their homes. They're residential nurses. So even without PPE, they're using this protocol as their PPE in some cases. Yeah, that's what I can tell you. So we went a year. We had one person that nearly died. We moved in on her and sprayed the back of her throat with the oregano spray, and she survived the code. She survived the heart attack, and she went on to live, and she said that the natural medicines cured her.
So wait a second, Doc. So the vaccine, though, hasn't been around for a year.
This was before. We did. See, this is our ongoing 50 nurses trial.
Okay.
So from February of 2020 or March, we've had these nurses in an assessment. So before the vaccine, they were in that assessment. How did they not get COVID-19 or whatever that is? How do they not get the flu? How do they not get sick? How do they not get double pneumonia? And how can they recover if they did? So we've been doing that. But then when the vaccine came out, we just enrolled the same people in a assessment, said take these things to protect your body. You're doing it anyway. And let's see if the Pfizer causes you a sore arm, swelling in the lymph, fever and chills. Or instead of acetaminophen, you take these things. That's all.
Okay, so
that
when
has to be written up.
So these 50 nurses, you said, I think before we started recording, this was using the Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Johnson & Johnson, all 4 companies, right?
Well, no, these 50 were primarily using the Pfizer shot. This group.
Okay.
We don't have much information on the other 2 yet. But we are doing a 3rd clinical trial. Okay, so you don't like this big pharmaceutical houses that we're doing. I'm doing this. But what can, I just want to do it. So this 3rd clinical...
I'm curious with these vaccines. It's my understanding, and you probably know this too, that you can't really get this mRNA, this messenger RNA, ribonucleic acid software program. You can't really get this out of your body, right? But what you're talking about helps mitigate.
The nanotech material also, and the propylene glycol, all of it is pretty destructive. But the concern I have is the cytokine storm.
Yeah.
That's when the genes make the interleukins and the interferons and all these substances that are extremely powerful to save your life from a toxic assault or exposure to candida or E. coli or salmonella or something that can kill you, right? So the body's trying its best. If we could modify that, you're right. Okay, we don't know long term what this protocol will do for a vaccine person. But we know so far that at least we can seem to stop the sudden fatalities, the sudden toxic reactions, the sudden strokes, the sudden heart attacks. We have to see further, because I'm doing another trial. I'll tell you about it. Now, oregano oil itself is an escharotic agent. Whether oregano oil or the multiple spice, which is cumin, oregano, sage, and cinnamon, I like that. I want everybody to take 2 capsules of that a day just to protect them from vaccine shedding. That's another thing. That's a real issue. But now,
how is it an escharotic? That's interesting. Internal escharotic.
It loves to chew things. So let's say you have athlete's foot. It will burn that athlete's foot off. Let's say you have a boil or acne. It will burn it out. It's escharotic. And get down to the biofilm, which typically these pathogens or these disease processes are difficult because of the germ biofilm. It will eat the biofilm on the Lyme bacillus, and then you can get to the Lyme and kill it. So these escharotic things. Now, when you take an escharotic, and mostly these are the essential oils that have this. When you take an escharotic, like oregano oil, and you put it in a petri dish with, say, herpes or coronavirus or influenza A or whatever you want, bacteria, it eats it. And that's true of the toenail fungus. We did this. It eats it. It does the cell wall. So that's different than an antibiotic mechanism. And then it renders the germ dead. It collapses the whole colony of germs through this action. But it's not just oregano oil. Oil of thyme. The oil of thyme is problematic. I don't recommend it because it has a toxicity profile, but it works. Then you have cinnamon, clove bud, eucalyptus is not really edible, but you could use it topically. So these all have this action. And nobody's studying this except me. I have a clinical trial I'll tell you about, another clinical trial, a bigger one. Why aren't we taking the monies, the billions that have been squandered, and check escharotic agents instead of injecting people with an experimental synthetic? We just tried our best in 2 days and we ran with it drug. Use something that's been around for 3 billion years or something. I don't know.
What's crazy to me, Doc, is that, you have all this natural stuff that you're talking about and that we advocate. I mean, there's all kinds of other stuff, too, like ultraviolet light, methylene blue, there's oregano, there's oxygen, there's ozone, there's all kinds of stuff. But even if you discount all the natural stuff, we have substances like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, which I don't recommend, but my goodness, talk about being relatively safe compared to a brand new vaccine.
Well, compared to the vaccine, because you have a high fatality rate with the vaccine. Let's say either you're dead or you're nearly dead. 1 of 300 is way too high. That's basically millions of people globally will die. That's a guarantee from the vaccine under the best circumstances. So how many would die from ivermectin? Probably not 1 in maybe a million or something, 1 in 500,000. Maybe. Hydroxychloroquine has a toxicity threshold, but it's not very high. It's not very high. It's been used for antiparasitic for decades. But when you go to the natural, you have no toxicity threshold. Nobody dies. When's the last time somebody died from eating a clove, a head of garlic, or 2 heads, or 3 or 4? There's not one in the history. Or you want to eat the whole bag of onions? Maybe you've got a bronchial thing. You need the onions. You want to take your good quality wild oregano oil? Who cares? As long as it's wild, it's not farm raised or something. You want to start pounding a little bit of cinnamon. Cinnamon's a little caustic, the oil. So you got to make sure your cinnamon oil is in an olive oil base. It's just a little hard on the stomach, but nobody's going to die from it. So there's a big difference in using these naturals, because they have a high efficacy and not low toxicity, don't have any toxicity. I can tell you that oregano oil, really good quality wild oregano oil, is non-toxic. And it's listed by the federal government as a GRAS substance. We'll find that out when we do this next study with 2 of the top investigators in the world, where it's a blinded assessment. We're going to give the multiple spice oil extract capsules for people with post-COVID syndrome, emphysema, asthma, not just COVID-19. When I was at a health food store, I spoke to 200 people, and I saw about 200, 250 people privately. 2 people had COVID post-COVID. No active cases. They all 200 had, guess what? Fungal overload. Fungal or chronic virus or cardiac problems, thyroid issues. None of them had COVID. You can't concentrate on this. It's there, but you have to concentrate on the whole thing. Lyme disease and heart disease, all of it, cancer. You can't do this.
So let's talk a little bit about oregano in terms of its effectiveness for a wide variety, not just, COVID-19, if you believe what they're telling us it is, but because you work with the North American Herb and Spice. I want to talk to you and ask you about that in just a second, but let's just talk in generalities here about oregano. In general, what does it do and why is it so good? Because I love your products.
Yeah, good. Oregano oil, wild oregano oil, is able to destroy the film or the cell wall of a germ and get inside the germ and blow it up, basically, kill it without the white blood cells or the immune system. And it does it in a very low dose, like a 1 in 1,000 or a 1 in 10,000. It's still active, like if you put 1 drop in 10,000 drops of water. You can still kill bacteria. It's an antioxidant. When Turkish investigators reasoned that if you've artificially caused the test animals to have pancreatitis, artificially caused their liver enzymes to go way up and the good enzymes, SOD, to go down, and there's scarring and there's damage in the liver tissue. So they gave the oregano oil in the middle of all that inflammation, and they reversed all the pathology. So it quenched the free radicals. It's a way to block oxidative damage along with your hydrogen thing. Now, you also have an anti-cytokine, antihistamine, anti-anaphylaxis capacity. I was one time very dehydrated, I guess, and my friend said, "You're dehydrated. I'm getting you juice, Doc." And he was always after me to do something. So he made me drink this juice. I went into anaphylactic shock and nearly died. But I squeezed out of my vocal cords. I need oregano oil, super strength. I put that under the tongue, and it just reliably saved me from death. Now, He gave me celery juice. Celery juice has furocumarins. I'm allergic to celery juice. Allergic beyond anything to the raw celery juice.
How funny.
In no way would I go on a celery diet. And unless I could put oregano oil in with it, then I could use it. But I'm not going to do stupid things. My point is, how can one herb be antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, antiparasitic, antioxidative, antihistamine, anti-anaphylaxis, anti-cytokine? What are you talking about? And then oregano oil, the super strength, is an anti-inflammatory, it's equal to morphine. If you take say 3 times the dose of morphine paste, and you take oregano oil super strength, the oregano oil works just as well for that back pain or whatever, the hip, whatever you got. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of stuff in one herb.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm a big fan of your oregano, the P73 juice. That stuff is so powerful. Wow.
Oh, I got the juice right here. The juice, I had one person that was dying from COVID-19, or something like that. She's a very famous attorney, marathon. We made her drink a bottle of the juice. She had already written her will. She's still with us.
She drank a bottle, not all at one time, did she?
Yeah, she just guzzled the whole thing, and it shut down whatever was happening. This juice, this is big. I'm not going to make any claims. You didn't hear me make a single claim about any company. I didn't even give a brand name. But I can tell you, I got to have my juice. I got to have and down the hatch, 2-3 ounces a day. And my nurses are using it for any tough bronchial or congestion syndrome that they get.
We had a question come in from Instagram about your products or the products that you're associated with or whatever. Does the juice affect your good or beneficial bacteria at all?
Well, your beneficial bacteria, when they did the study in Iran, they gave oregano oil in the yogurt, and the bifidobacteria and the lactobacillus count went up, not down.
Really?
1 drop per 1,000. Yeah. Small doses of oregano that kills the nasty bad and seems to increase the probiotic. Juice, no real issue with the probiotics. But high doses of oregano oil might interfere, 5 or 10%. And that's a lot because you have trillions of these germs in your intestine.
Right.
So if you're going to you got to take 40 drops 3 times a day for 2 months to get rid of whatever. That's what I say in my book. Mm-hmm. Well, then take a probiotic with it, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to talk about your book that you just mentioned. You have a book on your website on cassingram.com, the new book, COVID-19 Remedy. And then you also mentioned another book or something that recording, right?
There's 3. There's the COVID-19 Remedy, the real truth revealed. You've seen the slaughterhouses. You cut open a pig and everybody gets sick. Mm-hmm. I explained the connection to industrial CAFO farms, concentrated animal feeding operations, and GMOs to the outbreak, and I predicted this in my earlier book. The pork industry and the beef industry are powerful enough to shut the argument down, and you would never hear that in China 350 million pigs died from coronavirus last couple of years, including bat-source COVID-19 coronavirus, by the way. You won't hear it. The Chinese shoved them in a pit and poured kerosene on them and burned them alive. So that book talks about what causes and what to do. Then you have the how to survive a forced vaccination. You didn't want the shot, but your job takes you to the Keys or to Bahamas or, I don't know, someplace, to Mexico. That's part of your job to go to Europe, and they won't let you on, and you feel like you have to. And so how to survive it, what do you take before, during, What about vaccine shedding? What do you do to protect yourself from the vaccinated? The risks are high for us who resist the vaccination. The vaccinated people are going to make us sick. Real high. Wow. You've got to do the oregano therapy and the multiple spice oil and the juice. But anyway, then the third book, the online, your listeners should be able to get the How to Survive the Vaccination at No Charge Electroton. If you want the hard book, you have to buy it. There should be a book. I just finished it. It's called The COVID-19 Vaccine, The Real Truth Revealed. It's a sister book to the others.
Okay.
It should be available for a short time and as a free download to your listeners.
Oh, cool. Yeah, okay, I see the one, How to Survive Forced Vaccinations, PDF download only, and then I see the one you're just talking about, the COVID-19 Remedy.
I'm on the radio. Call you back.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, the other one's not there yet.
Okay.
You've got to wait until... But when this show airs, we'll keep us informed, and we'll open that up as a free download courtesy of your show.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate that, because I see so many people, because we have an academy where we have thousands of people inside the academy, but then also emails coming in from the radio show as well, and people just sharing stories about how they have to get the vaccine, or their work is making them get it, or some people are like flight attendants and they're making them get it. It's
once you read the book, you're not going to get the shot. I mean, it's 9 out of 10 are going to opt out at once they see the data in the big book. That's not online yet. Well, it might be online when you air the show.
Is that the COVID-19 Remedy book you're talking about?
No, COVID-19 Remedy is bad enough, but this is the COVID-19 Vaccine, The Real Truth Revealed. This is the one I just did, and it will be the hard copy of that book probably at the end of April. It'll be available. Okay. So, wow. Yeah. So, bottom line is on the COVID-19 vaccine, when you take that, you will have permanent damage, and there is the chance that you will suffer either a paralysis syndrome, some sort of a stroke, you'll survive somehow, or it will kill you. About 1 in 300 chance for that type of circumstance. So you take your chances on this one, big time, really big time. And I don't see any reason to do that. Yeah.
So for people that don't know, you have a podcast as well. Your latest episode was how to handle antibiotics and candida overgrowth. You have an interview with Kim Torres. You have an interview with Broadway singer. Our largest organ, you have one on kidney health, Lyme disease. How often do you do your podcast?
These podcasts are a pain I do one a week. I don't know how. I mean, I'm a freelancer, but they trapped me into doing it. So once a week, there's supposed to be something.
That's cool.
But I'm doing one with some activists in England that are being arrested and put in prison and fined for saying we want our freedom back. We're going to get our freedom. So I'll be interviewing some premium guests on that. And maybe we can do something. But look, the bottom line is simple. If you're fine now, or even have health issues, leave it alone. Don't intervene your body with synthetic DNA or chimpanzee shell virus or human fetal tissue, especially the elderly. You got enough challenges, enough issues and trials and tribulations just surviving in a toxic world with fluoride, with mercury, with 10,000 toxic chemicals, dioxins, pesticides, glyphosate, and more. Why do you want to make yourself totally miserable and rue the day that you took the shot when you could just not do it? That's all I'm talking.
I hear you. So I'm looking at North American Urban Spice. Are you part of that company, or what's your relationship with them?
I'm not a part of anything like that. I like the freelance world of being an author, and I'm their biggest fan in the universe. So, as you know, with products, here's the disclaimer. No company can make such claims. What I'm saying today is strictly as an author. I don't mention the brand name so much as the fact that oil of wild oregano, the juice essence, a spray form micellized with clove bud. I've done the research, and you can see the generic nature of my research even on my Facebook site, where I don't mention the brand name. So I try to steer clear of that. And if anybody misconstrues what we've talked about being a promotion, my disclaimer is I do not take a paycheck for oil of oregano. So I wish I did. I should take 10. I should beat somebody up for not giving me one, but I don't. So
no, I hear you. In today's world, you got to make a clear distinction.
Oregano was a $800 million industry. Then I entered the picture, and now it's $8 billion.
Wow!
Everybody from Purdue Chicken to Bell and Evans, to all the farmers here and there, to 70 different brands of oil of oregano have benefited.
Wow!
And that's strictly because of my explaining it and writing it and so forth. So, but if you want to know the parameters for what is a quality oregano, let's put out a free book, The Health Benefits of Wild Oregano, on CassIngram.com, or go there, download that. It's free for a download. And then you'll find out these are the parameters I need before I make the purchase.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to link up that book as well. That's really good.
Yeah, link that book for your listeners. And people, here's the issue. You're going to get the vaccine, you're not going to get the vaccine. At least look into taking the cytokine storm blockade. So your daughter can keep you around to look after your great-grandchildren or whatever, not drop dead on her.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're only 50 or 60. You've got 20 or 30 good years left. They're not going to be good if you take the vaccine, but at least you'll be alive, potentially. And so, look into oil of wild oregano, the multiple spice oil capsules, the oregano spray with clove bud, and so on. Look into the black seed oil capsules or oil, and keep yourself strong through my
what looks interesting, I haven't tried yet, is the H2O or H2 Orega. That looks interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that because that is the micellized water-based oregano oil, where the water and the oregano oil are completely miscible. And you just put that in your water or tea, and it just disappears.
Wow.
If you go to, I don't sell oregano oil, but I will be offering micellized oregano oil on my website. It's going to be called Purely Orega, and it's this. No claims are made for it, but it's oregano, spruce, and pine, high terpene, all micellized together in a dropper bottle. So that would be something that we should think about using. It's pretty significant to have that much wild plant in a supplement. So there's another option.
Yeah, no, this would be really great for people to have some of this stuff with the coming fall and winter season in the north.
Well, now, Mr. Gates says you're gonna really feel it when you see this second epidemic. What is he talking about? He's got Ebola jars or something. He does. He's doing Ebola vaccine. I honestly think you're going to see a Western civilization Ebola outbreak. But it'll be man-made, and the purpose will be to completely control the planet. Because if you put on a 50% fatal hemorrhagic disease, you'll have control. You won't. The sheeple will line up. And so I'm thinking about writing a book about Ebola and all that. And look, you do your medical, but if 20 million people have been exposed to this, I don't know. If that happens, because it's weaponized by the Soviets, the ex-Soviets, UK, and the Americans. Weaponized Ebola exists. Okay, so if that comes out, I don't know if they destroyed their stock. I have no idea. If that comes out, you have to have some kind of antidote, or it could kill you. I don't like one of two odds.
No.
I'd rather improve my odds by pounding something that might help me out a little bit because there's no medical treatment anyway.
Hey, Doc, we have a couple other questions from Instagram. Would you mind taking a couple of these before we head out?
That's all right.
Okay, cool. One is, let's see, how to dissolve coronary arteries calcification and mitigate the buildup.
There's something called red sour grape. This is Iranian, this is Turkish, this is Lebanese, this is a Middle Eastern home remedy. They take the red sour grape and they eat it, and it eats the plaque off the arteries. Can you imagine? I had a woman who had a stone, a calcium stone, with cholesterol stuck in one of her glands. I gave her the red sour grape as a powder to put under the tongue. One day later, the stone squirted out, and it was nothing but a slimy mass of cholesterol. That red sour grape ate the calcium. So if you want to clear your arteries, you got to use this stuff. Black seed oil for the heart, red sour grape for the arteries.
Where do you get the red sour grape extract?
I don't know. You got to Google it. It's a powder. It's a powder, and I use the capsules. It's got a trade name. I'm not at a liberty to give it, but
yeah, I hear you.
No, you look. I can give you some websites, and you can study those and see if you can find these kinds of things.
That'd be great.
Things like oregonol.com, things like what is it, iHerb, and what else has there?
Right.
OreganoPro.com. You'll find it.
Okay, cool. So, what is your opinion?
I did a clinical trial with this, and it was effective against hypertension.
Oh, really?
Red sour grape. Yeah, it's got a trade name. Yeah.
What is your opinion of DMSO? It's made from nature, and I think so many like to take it. DMSO.
Do you use that? I don't do much with some semi-synthetics. How are you feeling that's been helping?
For me, I love DMSO. I've been using it recently for some tendons issues. For me, it works great.
Okay, so if that's the case, I would use that with the oregano. The oregano shield or the oregano oil, something like that. And the combination would be superb because the DMSO would drive the oregano in a little deeper.
Yeah.
So as long as they used to use it for horses, right?
Yeah.
For their injuries.
This one comes from KMC Dubs. If the vaccine doesn't contain a virus, why are people getting SS COVID afterwards?
The reason that they're getting is the test is flawed, and the test detects some remnants of the spike protein that's coded for the vaccine. The vaccine does contain contaminants.
Okay.
So you can't get around it. How are you going to sterilize a monkey kidney tissue? How are you going to... Hellerman said before he died that they're hopelessly contaminated. You can't do anything about it. If you make a vaccine from the monkey tissue, from the fetal tissue, you're going to have contamination.
Interesting.
So, what do you think? Smart enough to know everything that exists in the microscopically? You don't know. So you've got these contaminants, and you've got the coding for the spike protein, so you're going to show up with COVID, even if you don't have an active virus. And anyway, nobody found this virus yet. All they're finding is, I don't know what they're finding. You can't seem to find the virus. To culture.
That's what I've heard too.
That 100 people in Germany were autopsied. They were listed as COVID victims. 100 out of 100 died from bacterial infection. Secondary bacteria from too many antibiotics and from the respirator tube. Nobody had COVID.
Yeah,
that's
it's crazy.
Not a conspiracy. It's an habit.
Yeah. Two more questions. One is, what do you know do you know anything about Morgellons disease?
Morgellons disease is most likely from Agrobacterium tumefaciens. It's a GMO bacteria that's used in artificial GMO cotton and artificial food, and it's a fiber. It's coded to produce fibers. It does that inside plants. That's the galls that you see on a plant. So you've got these irritating fibers. If you kill them... See, remember, oregano is very forgiving, the oregano oil. Super strength is what I would always look for. where it loves to eat foreign protein. So eat this foreign protein out, and then maybe you could get rid of this mortality.
Okay, cool. Final question. How to decrease inflammation?
It depends. I mean, if there's some kind of infection, then the oregano is part of that. Certainly wild turmeric is 50 times better than just the commercial pills and the typical turmeric capsule. So the wild kind, or turmeric milk, whole food turmeric, also in the root. These are COX-2 blockades. Ginger tea, any kind of ginger helps reduce inflammatory load. But again, if there's fungus, if there's bacteria, use the oregano and the anti-inflammatories together.
Awesome, Doc. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Final question. What are you going to do today? You going to have any fun? What are you going to do after this?
Well, it's nice. So I'll take your advice, and I'm interested in your machines. I wouldn't mind getting some of those. I think it's worth it to do everything you can for your health. Mm. That's what I understand. We're buying these machines. We're buying the beamers. We're doing these things. We're going and getting the juice, and then we go and get the vaccine. So you try to use your common sense instead of your, I don't know what you're using, but try not to be emotional about this. Just analyze things carefully. All of you elderly people do. Mothers, aunts, grandfathers, don't just run and trust the government. Good God.
Right.
You're not trusting the government. You try to trust Pfizer. Pfizer has a sordid history. So does Johnson & Johnson of corruption. Why would it change now?
Right. I know. You got to look into the history of these companies, people.
Yeah, and if the Pfizer Borla won't take it, if Gates won't take it, if Fauci won't take it, they say they do, but they don't. If these top people won't take the vaccine, and if people have been shown on television to fake it like they took it, why would you do it? Why wouldn't you follow the lead of Gates, putting a double to fake the vaccine?
Right.
What does that tell you?
I hear you, Doc.
Yeah.
I hear you. Well, thank you, man, so much for being on the show and for your time. You're welcome anytime. So anytime you want to have Crystal reach out to me, if you got a new project, new book, just let me know and we'll do it again.
Yeah, we should talk about the vaccine again. It's just getting more progressive.
Oh my gosh, we could do a show in 2 more days, and there'll be a full amount of content to get through just from 2 days worth, right?
Yeah. All right, nice to talk to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Doc.
Yep.
Okay, bye. Well, there you go, guys. Dr. Cass Ingram, Mr. Wild Oregano Man himself. I hope you enjoyed that show. His website is cassingram.com, and like we were saying before. I'm going to start moving away from YouTube because I want to be able to speak and be able to not talk in code like we mentioned. And so I think that's the path we're going to be going to, is just getting away from YouTube so we can speak without censorship worries or whatever. So that's the direction we're headed. I hope you enjoyed that show. And I realize that a show like that is not going to convince anyone. Well, at least I don't know if it would or not convince people to not get the vaccine. And this is something that Kate and I were talking about recently, is that we really can't control the outcome of and actions of others. And there's a really cool thing. You can look it up online. It's called Karpman's Drama Triangle. And I want to share this with you because we have a lot of people in our academy that They ask me questions, or Dr. Bergman questions, about their friends and family. And I just want to encourage you that it's not your responsibility to save anybody. It's not your responsibility to change the outcome of anybody. At this point, this whole COVID-19, this is a religion. And it's not our role to wake anybody up. It's just not. The information is out there. And this is something we're talking about before in the Extreme Health Academy. I do a live every Friday morning. And there's 2 groups of people that are getting the vaccine. That is, those people that are hardcore believe everything the government says, and it's more socialistic, communistic kind of an idea of I'm doing this to protect you, and I'm doing my part to get over this whole thing. And I've looked. One of my friends the other day was saying I've done all the research and I chose to get it because I want to make sure it's a healthy world for you, and I would expect you to do the same for me. And, there's those people, right? They're just really arrogant. They're not willing to look at any real evidence. And they're really militant about this. And then there's those that get the vaccine that are simply just uninformed. They haven't done their research. And it's really challenging to know how to deal with both those groups of people. On one hand, the people that are militant, I just say, I can't do anything for you. I'm not here to do anything for you. Go get the vaccine. Go do whatever you think is good. I can't do anything more. If something happens, then and you want to talk, we can talk. But for people like that, I say go get the vaccine. Just go get it. If that's what you want to do, go get it. If you're willing to have a conversation and you're humble and you want to look at other information, then we can talk. But still, even then, it's not our role to change anybody. And I realize, you're listening to this, it's really difficult because you have all this evidence of people dying from the vaccine or whatever, and none of that will wake anybody up. So people are living under a thick cloud of darkness, as it says in the Bible, and they're just not willing to see. And they have this unyielding and unwavering trust of the government and of mega corporations. Like I mentioned on the show, if you don't trust natural remedies, which there are many studies of awesome and amazing ways to overcome viral infections, oregano, you can go on a PubMed and find studies on these things. Methylene blue, ultraviolet blood irradiation therapy, Dr. Frederick Klenner's high-dose IV vitamin C therapy, which ascorbic acid, I don't recommend it generally because it's really just the outer layer of the vitamin C molecule. There's all kinds of other factors and antioxidants and things going on inside. Ascorbic acid is just the outer shell, and I don't recommend it. But if it's going to save your life, then it's all about context, right? But still, Dr. Frederick Klenner in the 1930s was bringing children back from polio who were in a coma. They were left for dead. They were dying. They were in a comatose state. He was bringing them back from the dead with high-dose IV vitamin C therapy. This was known in the 1930s, right? So you have all this evidence in these papers and these PubMed articles and all this kind of stuff talking about, ultraviolet blood irradiation, IV vitamin C, oregano, MMS. You have oxygen therapy. You have ozone. You have all these things that you can utilize, right? Silver. Silver is also something I don't recommend, but, in context, if it's going to save your life, it's going to save your life, right? So you have all these things on the natural side, right? But people don't want to believe that. Okay, so I get that. You only believe in medical stuff. So then you have, on the medical side, you have ivermectin, you have hydroxychloroquine, which has been used for over 50 years. It's even used hydroxychloroquine, in my understanding. I don't really study too many pharmaceutical drugs and things, but the hydroxychloroquine has been used, with pregnant women with no real issues. And so, I don't recommend it because it is a pharmaceutical synthetic compound that would be liver toxic. But at the same time, if you're only believing in the medical side, why wouldn't you go get those first? Well, the reason why is because it doesn't get any press. They want to give you a vaccine. You have to ask yourself, if they want you shot up vaccinated so bad, why? Why, when there's all kinds of clinical evidence for the last 50 years showing the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and other substances like this, why are they trying to get everyone vaccinated with a rushed vaccine that hasn't even gone through clinical trials? I don't know if people realize these vaccines have not been approved by the FDA. They're used in, it's authorized use, emergency use authorization. This has not been, I don't know. If you want to go get the vaccine, go get the vaccine. There's nothing more I can do. There's overwhelming evidence. All I do is collect evidence and articles and studies, and I put them in our academy for people to use because people only believe, from the horse's mouth, right? They only want to believe Bill Gates. They only want to believe these people. But they don't want to believe Carrie Mullis, who invented the PCR test, who talked about Dr. Anthony Fauci and how much of a fraud he is. They don't want to believe in that. So it's, there's nothing more we can do. At this point, if you're still asleep, I don't have much faith that you're going to wake up. I just don't. So what we need to do is stop trying to wake other people up. But what we need to do is start coming together and forming groups, meeting in person. How about forming a group in your neighborhood or in your community where you meet every Tuesday night or something like that, and you meet and you talk about these things? How about becoming more sustainable? I mean, this is a time where we really have to take stock of our own life and really look. I mean, so like I saw this article here. There was a post by an attorney that we had on the show years ago, T. Matthew Phillips. And he says, "Rejoice, victory is ours. Attention, Nevada people. The lawsuit against Smith Kroger has been amicably resolved. As a result of our litigation efforts, Kroger has abandoned its mandatory mask policy. It's once again safe for liberty-loving people to freely shop at the grocery store with no mask." T. Matthew Phillips. So I want to get him back on the show again and talk about this kind of stuff. But, at this point, like I said before, it's not our job to wake anybody up. People are asleep. This is a religion. People just want to believe this stuff. And you know what? For those people that are militant about it, go get your vaccine. I'm not going to try to convince anybody of anything. If someone wants to do all this stuff and get a known vaccine that God only knows what's in it, and they want to inject into their arm thinking they're going to become immune, which, by the way, it's common knowledge, and Fauci and other people in the CDC have admitted that these vaccines don't prevent transmission. And it doesn't prevent transmission. It doesn't prevent infection. So if you're not preventing infection or preventing transmission, what are you preventing? Oh, maybe that you could lower your symptoms by a factor of less than 10%. For a cold or flu that your body already has a 99.97% or 73% success rate with. And that's people that are sick. I don't understand the law. I mean, I understand it because this is a forced vaccination effort. I do understand what's going on, but just people don't. So they're walking around with masks on. They're walking around trying to figure out, why they're sick and unhealthy, and they don't take care of themselves. It's just mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. I'm sure you're walking around, doing whatever you're doing, and listening to this thinking, yep, that's my family. Overweight, unhealthy, but scream at me for not wearing a mask or whatever, right? So this is the someone said a long time ago that the end times are going to come from a cough. It wouldn't surprise me. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that show. For those that are subscribed on YouTube, we have a couple shows that we haven't been able to upload yet, so we're a little behind in our scheduling. So make sure to subscribe to our show on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you can right now, and that way you'll get a show every single day of the week. I really enjoy these, bringing these shows to you. And Dr. Ingram's really great. We're going to put a link to North American Herb and Spice. So if you want to grab some of these products that he talked about that aren't necessarily affiliated with him, I just want to make that clear. But they're products that I use, and I really recommend these things a lot. And so, big fan of him. And I'll put a link to the books that he mentioned as well. Let's see, what are those books? Those books look really interesting. And I think he's making some or all of them available for free. The COVID-19 Remedy, The Truth Revealed, and How to Survive Forced Vaccinations PDF download. So I think there's a third one he mentioned too. But I'll put links to everything that we talk about on today's show at extremehealthradio.com/694. And I also didn't run these commercials just because I just thought I didn't want to do it because there's so much going on, and hang on a second, let me see. Outro music. Is this coming in? Oh, there we go. There's a little outro music. Oh, cool. But yeah, if you want to support the show, the other two commercials that we didn't run were the Relax Bar and Fred Sauna and the Bellicon Rebounder. So now is really a time, guys, to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And sauna therapy is a great way to detoxify metals and detoxify plastics and poisons. And even iron, some people say. We had a guest on years ago talking about that. And then the rebounder is a great way to cleanse your lymphatic system. So, these are therapies you can do in your own home, and you can combine them too. So if you do the rebounder before the sauna, it's really quite effective in helping sweat out more. But and something else we're doing too in the Extreme Health Academy is, as a group, we just did blood donation in March, and in April we're doing liver health. So I'm not really a big fan of cleanses per se, but I like doing things to support certain organs, and April is Liver Support Month. And so here's a little food for thought, and this is the reason why we're doing this. Okay, so we all know that vitamin D is critically important, right? But it matters what kind of vitamin D you're talking about, because there's over 100 types of vitamin D. But vitamin D is incredibly important, right? So I'm not a fan of taking exogenous forms of vitamin D for a lot of different reasons I won't get into now. But vitamin D from light is incredibly important. So when we make vitamin D, we need to store it, right? So spring and summer should be focused on making vitamin D in your skin. Okay, so and then you make that vitamin D, and then you want to store it in your liver. So you want to make sure your liver's working properly, right? So when the fall season comes and winter, you want to make sure you have resources of vitamin D stored in your liver, so you don't get sick. But no one's really thinking about this, and this is because we're not tied to nature, right? If you were living off the land and tied to nature and the cycles of the seasons, you would be preparing 1 or 2 seasons in advance, right? You'd be storing seeds, you'd be preparing your food, you'd be getting ready for the winter when it's summer, these types of things. And this is sort of part of what it means to be connected to nature. So the same holds true with our vitamin D, right? Spring and summer should be storing vitamin D and making sure you're getting enough of it. And then after that, then when fall and winter time come, you want to make sure your liver is working properly so you can use that stored vitamin D that you accumulated during the fall or during the spring and summer months. So this is how we need to think. So this is why we're focused on liver health this coming up April. We're going to be doing a bunch of different things for 7 days to sort of support the liver. So anyway, if you guys want to join the Extreme Health Academy, make sure to do that. You can get a free 2-week trial at extremehealthacademy.com, and then you can use the code EHR14 for a free 2-week trial. So I just want to let you guys know about that. We'll be going through this as a group together, supporting each other along the way, and it's a lot of fun. So come and join us in there if you really want to take your health to new levels, get inspired, and learn some things you probably never heard of before. So I really appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping on our store, biochargeme.com. Thank you for going through our Amazon link. For those that are Patreon subscribers, I appreciate you so much. And thank you again for all your support and sharing. Do me a favor, share this on Instagram and tag me. I would love to see where you're listening. That would be so cool. I love that. Tag me at Extreme Health Radio. That would be really, really cool. All right, guys, love you so much. Thank you again. We'll be back next Friday for another episode, and you'll have the best of episodes the other 6 days of the week. All right, love you guys. Bye.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.